What is up, y'all? I'm back at it with another PragerU response video. I am sweating just from sitting here. I am a sweaty person, and I really wish I turned the AC on before starting this, but it makes a lot of noise, so I'll just grit and bear it. Anyway, here we go.
What's up, guys? This is Will with PragerU. Today we're at California State University Northridge. Again, you guys remember this campus, and we're talking to women about the wage gap and whether they think it's real. Let's do it. Do you think the gender wage gap is real?
I do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do.
Why do you think that?
I believe it because I've seen research in classes that I've actually taken here.
How do you stop the gender wage gap?
That's a great question. I think we have to take a look at our government and our understanding of capitalism and consumerism and kind of start working there and work backwards.
If you had like a business, you know what I mean?
Right on.
And they could pay women 77 cents for every dollar that a man would make, that would be like capitalism. So they would hire all women.
I suppose in a sense I'm following what you're saying.
Okay. This is a very common argument. If you're ever discussing the wage gap with someone IRL and they throw out this argument about, well, if women are paid less than men, then why don't employers only employ women? This is what you need to do, okay? You need to stop talking to them immediately, okay? Pick up the phone, call the fire department. Call the fire department, and you wait there silently until the firemen come and they blast this person with a hose, because you have been under the mistaken impression that the person you're talking to is an actual human being when actually they are a literal fucking dumpster fire. This argument is so bad and so easily disproven in a million different ways. And here's a really, really simple response to this argument that even PragerU fans can understand. So if you have a business and you only hire women because you can pay women less than men, then your business will still suffer financially because you are cutting your potential labor pool in half. Okay? If you only hire women, then that is 50% of the population that you are excluding from your business, and you will end up making less money even if women are paid less than men on average. That's some simple shit. Please don't use this argument, ever. Another good argument against this is also gender role bias. There have been studies that have demonstrated that that business owners in manual labor fields, jobs like plumbing, construction, carpentry, electrical businesses like this, the business owners will be more inclined to give jobs to men because of the adherence to the stereotype that men are, big and strong and that they'd fit better into these jobs. So that's another reason why this argument falls flat. There's a million different reasons, pretty simple reasons. So please, don't ever make this argument. It's a terrible argument.
But
I think they probably couldn't do that because then they would be accused of being sexist against men.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's why the whole gender wage gap thing seems a little weird. Do you think that women might get paid less because they choose jobs that pay less?
no.
Oh, he got it.
No, I don't think so.
He cracked the
No, I
code.
don't think anybody chooses a career where they would make less money than possible.
I don't think that's like a women choosing issue. I think that there's issues within academia as well that we're not doing a great job at promoting women in those fields.
You mad at me?
That's a good
Not
point.
yet.
Disappointed? I've given pretty good evidence.
No.
It's clear that you've done your research.
If I said that male nurses make more than female nurses.
Okay, so this argument is going to be basically the crux of what he talks about, this idea that the difference in pay between men and women can be attributed to differences in career choices or difference in the amount of hours worked, different career paths, stuff like that. And this is an argument that is also incredibly common among reactionaries and is also very easily debunked. So there are two ways in which the gender wage gap is analyzed by experts. There is the adjusted wage gap and the unadjusted wage gap. What reactionaries will often criticize is the study of the unadjusted wage gap. So what the unadjusted wage gap is you take the wages of men and the wages of women, and then you just compare the median income of those two groups of people without factoring in differences in hours worked or differences in days taken off, or differences in career choices, or things like that. So you're just taking the raw numbers and comparing them. That is the unadjusted gender wage. And that's the one that reactionaries use, because it's easy to point at it and be like, oh, well, you can't just compare the two numbers and say this is the fault of sexism. And that's correct. That's why we have the adjusted wage gap analysis, which is a thing. There are studies, multiple studies out here, and I want to highlight this thingy right here in particular. So this, oh man, it got minimized since I looked at this before. So this is a collection of statistics put together by the American Association of University Women. And before anyone says anything, this is a collection of studies by this group, and they get these numbers from a whole bunch of reputable sources, like the Census Bureau and the Department of Labor and groups like that, because I know there's going to be fucking neckbeards coming onto this video and be like, you pulled from a study that's from the women's organization. It says women's in it, so of course they're gonna bias the results and say that the wage gap is real because the femoids want to take all of men's money. It's like, no, these numbers are from reputable sources. Read this for yourself. Don't take my word on it. So this study goes into the various different ways in which the wage gap is studied and analyzed. So they go over the wage gap difference between different states, starting from the ones with the least amounts of a wage gap, starting with the state of New York. Men have a median income of $52,124 compared to women's $46,208, so there's an 89% earnings ratio difference, and down to the worst state on the list, which is Wyoming, that has a 64% ratio. So that's one way that they look at this. They also look at the difference in race and ethnicity. Hispanic Latino wage gap is 92%, African Americans is 90%, white non-Hispanics is 76%, Asian is 81%, so on and so forth. Most importantly, the one that, they measure it by educational differences, so whether they got a high school diploma, whether they got a college degree, and things like that. And most importantly, for our purposes, this group of studies measured the wage gap between different professions. If I can find it. I don't have my mouse plugged in. I'm using the trackpad, and it's a pain in the ass. I'm committed now. I'm already making this video. I'm not going to go up and get my mouse now. Yes, this. So they measure the wage gap by different occupations. And we can see from this, we have female to male truck drivers. There's an 84% wage ratio, so an 84% difference. So women 84 cents to a man's dollar in the truck driving field. Hand laborers, an 83% ratio. Software developers, 81% ratio. Food service managers, an 83% ratio. Financial managers, a 65% ratio. Women make 65 cents to a man's dollar. So a lot of different ways that this is broken down. The point being here that the wage gap has been measured in a large variety of ways. It has been dissected by breaking it down per state. It's been looked at along racial lines. It's looked at for individual professions. It's adjusted for how many hours are worked. And no matter which way you analyze the gender wage gap, how you adjust it, how you factor out all of these other things, the gender wage gap still exists. So if you're willing to read some of this, check this out. It's the simple truth about the gender wage gap. Very interesting. So yeah, but of course he's not going to acknowledge any of this. He's going to focus exclusively on attacking the unadjusted wage gap and pretending that there is no research whatsoever about adjusting for various factors to see if the wage gap still holds up, which it does. It's like it's like these people think to themselves, obviously he's a dishonest reactionary, I don't know if he believes anything he says, but it's like these people think to themselves that they have cracked the code. It's like there is that none of these people who analyze things like the gender wage gap, all of them, every single one of them, have just all overlooked this glaring fact that you have to adjust for different circumstances among men and women to come to an accurate wage gap. It's like everyone just forgot to do that, and these guys have figured that out and are exposing the truth, even though these researchers have done that. They've done just that, and the wage gap still exists no matter how you slice it.
I think that's a huge issue.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think males make more than females? I have no idea. They shouldn't.
They make more because they work longer hours and they are more willing to move for better positions.
I think that that's true.
I think
Yeah, no, see my previous spiel. It's some bullshit.
that it is a lot of the times highly situational. I think that's the conclusion that I'm coming to by what you're saying.
So I think that society has kind of driven women to be attracted to one or more different job fields.
Women are like expected to stay home for their kids and yada 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 for like their family, but like men don't have that, you know, like burden.
That's a good point.
Do you think women would rather choose to do that than keep up with men in these high-paying jobs and try and compete with men?
I think women just have more of a heart to like take care of their family than to decide on, you know, continuing their work.
Why do you think that men choose that and women don't?
Because women have more of a heart than men do.
There you go. I agree. Women and men make different career choices because women are better than men.
Thank you.
You see, women, you're really good at things. Men have their place in society. Men are good at things. Men are good at being the breadwinners and earning the money. But women, you guys are really good at being barefoot and pregnant. Yeah, just do that. Great take, Mr. Dudebro. But anyway, these ladies were actually making those other ladies were making a good point. Is that women are often pressured into certain career paths, and this does have an effect on the wage gap. And I wanted to bring up the idea of stereotype threat. So stereotype threat, this is an article in the Harvard Kennedy School. It talks about this idea of stereotype threat. So the header says, social forces such as stereotype threat can cause women to underperform men in math examinations. This achievement gap can be closed or even reversed when strategies are implemented during testing that eliminate this threat, such as including statements at the beginning of the exam that indicate both genders tend to perform equally well on it. So I'm not going to read this entire thing, but let's look at findings for a minute. So there have been studies done. This is referencing studies that have been done by multiple institutions. They compared math tests for men and women. They had men and women do math tests, and there was control groups that were used that were just given the math test, and that was that. But there was also a group of women who, before having them perform the math test, they would show them advertisements or television clips or something like that that reinforced negative stereotypes about women, particularly about them being not as good technically or not being as good at math as men are. So those were the studies that were performed, and the findings, according to this, students from an undergraduate calculus course performed worse on a math test under a gender stereotype threat condition. Here, a typical university-administered academic test that went under a non-threat condition, where the same test includes a preamble acknowledging equal performance between genders on the test in the past. These results were amplified among white women, where those in the non-threat condition significantly outperformed those in the traditional test-taking environments. Among white participants, women in the non-threat condition significantly outperformed women in the stereotype threat condition, and men in either condition. Overall participants in a non-threat condition perform more accurately, correct answers measured out of complete answers, than participants in a stereotype threat condition. So basically the point being that when women are exposed to negative stereotypes associated with their ability to do something, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. That stereotype tends to get internalized and kind of becomes true in a sense. Internalized misogyny, basically. So all of this to say that the fact that men and women do make different career choices, and that affects the wage gap, because that is true. Men tend to have they tend to be overrepresented in most STEM fields, which I'm going to get into a little bit more later, and they are overrepresented in construction fields, the blue collar kind of work, stuff like that. And women tend to be overrepresented in nursing and some other fields. So the point being is that stereotypes, negative stereotypes, sexist ideas about the roles of men and women affect what career paths men and women take. So the fact that plays in to the gender wage gap is not a rebuttal against the gender wage gap, because the cause of the gender wage gap is still sexist social roles that men and women tend to be guided into, that is affecting their wages. So
I'm so glad he finally owned up to that.
The wage gap is not due to sexism or something, that you can't control. It's based on the choices that men and women make, and that's why there's a gap between pay.
The choices that men and women make sometimes are driven by the opportunities that they have, which is driven by sexism. There are lots of choices that are being made for us because the opportunities aren't there.
Right now in STEM fields, it's like...
I like this woman. This is what I was saying, but a lot less wordy. It's good.
3-to-1 women are favored for jobs over men.
But that's not being
shown. Yeah.
Jobs over men.
But that are being made for us because the opportunities aren't there.
Right now in STEM fields, it's like 3-to-1 women are favored for jobs over men.
Okay, I don't know where the hell he came up with that, but I decided to look into it. This is from the National Science Foundation, and it breaks down based on gender, the jobs in STEM fields. So let's take a look at this. So these lines on the graph represents women in these different fields and what percentage they make up in various fields. So the only one where women make up a majority in any STEM field is social scientists. So that would women tend to be overrepresented as psychologists in the U.S. So in that field, women are the majority, but in every other STEM field, women are the minority. So it's about 48% for biological, agricultural, environmental, life scientists. So they make up a minority of biologists. We got 30% for physical scientists. We got 25% for computer and mathematical scientists. So only a quarter of people who work in the computer science field are women. It is overwhelmingly dominated by men. All S&E professions. And down here at the bottom, 12.7% of engineers are female. 12.7. So I don't know where the hell he came up with this 3-to-1 number, but women are underrepresented in basically every single STEM field massively, except for the social sciences and psychology. I love doing this with PragerU videos, man. It's like, you don't even have to try. You just have to Google shit to prove how wrong it is. Make it so easy. Continue.
It's not being shown right now in leadership.
Maybe it's not as big as we think it is. It's like clearly smaller incidents where the situation happens, but maybe it's not as large.
Yeah. Hey, there's no denying that there's sexism in the world or anything like that. But the way that I see it is, why hinder your business by hiring men for $1 when you could pay women 77 cents for every dollar?
Oh boy.
You know what I mean? If you're a business owner, all you want is money. So sexism really has no place in capitalism. And that's...
Sorry to interrupt. We're from the licensing office, and there's certain rules when it comes to like filming. We just want to know where your group was from.
We're from Prager University. We're a nonprofit.
Okay, and did you have permission to film?
No, this is a public campus.
So you, because normally you have to go through our communications office, like when news crews come on campus, in order to get permission to film.
Yeah. No, this is a public campus,
Okay.
so you're allowed to be on a public campus and film.
I know that. I know that.
Yeah, we didn't get permission.
So you guys are from Prager University?
PragerU. Yep.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah. No, they can't shut us down. It's a public university. Call the cops.
Oh shit! Oh man!
Okay, guys, we just finished up.
Oh, dude, don't be fooled. Conservatives love it when people try to like stop them from saying things. They love it. They love it because then they get to play the victim, and there's nothing conservatives and reactionaries love more than playing the victim. So, well, yeah, that was Mr. Will Witts disproving the gender wage gap, except he totally didn't. So that was fun. So as always, this is MK Vanguard. Tell me what I should do in the doobly-doo, and all that good stuff. Peace out, y'all.